Welcome to the Epcotian Adventure,
a podcast where we'll talk about all things Disney,
including tips and tricks, festivals and favorites, and the very latest in news and reviews.
But we're still old enough to remember when the Celtic rock was so good, no one questioned why it was in Canada.
This is episode 14, the top 5 live entertainment experiences at Walt Disney World.
Or, there's more than just rides, folks.
So now please remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the podcast as we embark on our Epcotian adventure. Howdy, folks, and welcome to episode 14 of the Epcotian Adventure. I'm Rod.
And I'm Sue.
And today we're going to be talking about our top 5 live entertainment experiences at Walt Disney World.
Yes, we are.
Let's start out with defining what a live experience is to us.
Great idea. This is going to run the gamut of a whole bunch of things. So what we're not including, we are not talking about parades. We're not talking about nighttime spectaculars.
So no Phantasmic, no fireworks.
Right.
Right.
None of that. What we are including is anything else.
Yeah, like live shows. We're talking about meet and greets. We're talking about things that occurred in the past, which may not occur now.
Streetmosphere.
Bands.
Yeah, anything that is live and happening in the parks. So we know that with that many options, we are doing resort-wide, so we're not narrowing this down to just Epcot. This is all of the Florida parks. Well,
resorts, parks.
Disney Florida parks.
Yeah.
And
so SeaWorld, I can't say Shamu.
No, we probably
Shamu?
shouldn't.
Oh,
no.
I have to cross that off my list then. Oh.
Yeah, that's embarrassing.
Oh.
But we know that we're not comparing apples to apples. You can't compare a meet and greet to a full live stage show. However, that's exactly what we're doing.
The reason why we're doing it this way is because for live entertainment, going back as far as the 80s with us visiting the resorts, there's a lot of things that we've seen over the years at the resorts that really do hit us in the feels. So most of what we're going to be talking about is things that emotionally have moved us.
Yes.
For one reason or another.
Right. And for me, like anytime there's a show where Walt talks, I'm in tears. So there's things like that are just automatically going to hit you.
Yeah, because something like Happily Ever After is going to hit us and make us cry. I don't cry. I get allergies very badly when Happily Ever After comes on.
Happen to be chopping onions every time.
Exactly, which is weird. So we're not going to cover those today because those are definitely going to be, that's our number one. I already can tell you that right now. But
we're not including those in this list.
Exactly.
But again, like we say with all of our lists, these are ours. These are things that hit us in the emotional feels. So it's going to be totally different from what you would come up with, which is why we always want to hear what your choices are. Yeah,
you'll notice because we're Disney adults that some of the things we talk about go back a lot longer than maybe you were even alive. So I'm not going to apologize because that's what we are.
That's true. But there are also things that are current. And I do want to say that at the end of both of our lists, which we have not compared again like we always do, we're probably going to have very similar top 5s. But at the end of those lists, I do want to take a few minutes and talk about some of the other options on park that didn't make our top 5s, but are so worthy of a mention.
Yeah, great idea.
So there is no right answer here. These are just what happened to be our favorite things.
Right. So let's go ahead and start off with number 5.
Number 5. My number 5 is the Voices of Liberty.
Wow. Oh, okay. I'm actually falling off my chair. I cannot believe that's number 5 with you because I know you, and Voices of Liberty is like something we have to do every time we go to Epcot, or at least attempt to do.
I love them so much.
I can't wait to see what your next 4 are then.
So if you are unaware, Voices of Liberty is an a cappella choir. Typically, they sing in the rotunda of the American Adventure Pavilion where the acoustics are amazing.
Oh my heavens. It really just brings you to tears. They could be singing commercials and you would just be, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful.
They started out, when they first started singing classic American songs, they would sing Oh Susanna, and they would sing My Country 'Tis of Thee. That's still true, but they also do some Disney standards now. When You Wish Upon a Star, and
we've heard him do songs from Broadway. Even we've heard him do.
They do
the one from Rent.
Yeah, Seasons of Love.
Seasons of Love. Yeah.
Oh man, but the talent that is involved in these men and women who sing in this group is just phenomenal.
Occasionally you can catch them at the theater, also at American Adventure.
Yeah, during the closure, they moved to the outdoor theater right across from the American Adventure Pavilion, and they did some outdoor shows. We tended to catch the last half of the last song every single time.
You'll also find them out there when they're doing rehab on the attraction of the American Adventure. Sometimes they'll go ahead and keep the rotunda open for them, and sometimes they'll put them out at the theater.
When you can catch them in the rotunda, do it, because again, those acoustics, it's just heaven sent.
Yeah, they've been there since 1982, since the park opened. They were actually an original band or group. Actually, it started with Epcot when it was Epcot Centered.
And they used to just sing as the pre-show to the animatronics show, to the American Adventure show. They now have their own scheduled times. It's still before the show, but they actually put them in the app and on the sign outside so that you can make sure that you catch them. And they are 100% worth making an effort to see.
I think my number 5 is going to take you a little off guard.
I'm so curious. Let's hear it.
And I'm a little biased again because I did work for Disneyland for so many years, but this also happens on Main Street at Disneyland and World both. It's Casey's Corner Pianist. Now at Disneyland, of course, it's just called Coke Corner Pianist. There's just something about watching somebody play some ragtime or some classical or some Disney standards on the piano. I grew up playing the piano at a very young age. Could not read a note if I tried now, but I love ragtime on a piano. At one time, we used to go to the Great American Melodrama in Oceano, California, which I still highly recommend if you're ever on the Central Coast.
Absolutely.
And their pianists were amazing. The first time I ever heard Root Beer Rag by Billy Joel was there. I didn't even know it existed as an actual piece until I heard somebody play it at the Great American Melodrama.
That person was Jordan, and he's fantastic. So
yes,
thank you, Jordan.
He was great. But in that same vein, there was a guy named Rodney that actually played at Coke Corner at Disneyland. And so I used to go and watch Rodney play the piano in the ragtime fashion that they do. And it still exists on Main Street at Magic Kingdom. So when we're walking by, if they're playing, I got to stop and watch it. Again, this is something that hits me in the feels because of who I am and what I did growing up.
I love that. I'm so glad you mentioned that. That is on my list to mention. I actually have a little mark around it on my list because I wanted to make sure we called this out. It's not on my top 5, but I love that so much.
My top 5 changed about 4 times. And
this is
the one I settled on because of the emotional value that I have with that. Number 4.
For me, my number 4 is the Candlelight Processional.
That was in my top 5. That was my top 5 for a while.
Nice.
And it was going to be in my ones that I mentioned at the end.
So we have talked about this before. Again, this is at Epcot. So my top 5 and top 4 are at Epcot now. But this is, again, at the American Pavilion, only during the Festival of the Holidays. Like we've said in the past, they bring in local and cast members for the choirs and for the orchestra, and they have a celebrity narrator that rotates every single night. They usually do 1 or 2 nights, and then they'll bring in someone else, so you can catch amazing people doing this. They read the story from the Bible, the story of Christmas, and they're backed up by this amazing live choir. It is such an experience. It gives me goosebumps every time.
We actually sat in a very cold rain in December a few years back and watched Neil Patrick Harris do the reading, and it was very stirring.
It's very moving. And I do want to give you a little pro tip. This is one of those situations where it's worth the upgrade to do the dining package.
Very much so.
You get to choose the restaurant. There's, I think, 4 or 5 different choices. You choose the restaurant, you pay the fee, you eat dinner at Epcot, which you're going to do anyway, and then you have a reserved spot to sit for the Candlelight Processional. And it is 100% worth that extra fee to have a reserved spot.
My number 4 is Voices of Liberty at the American Adventure, which we really just all talked about. So anyway, again, Voices of Liberty, when you get a chance, if you look at the left-hand sign as you walk up to the attraction, it'll actually have the next Voices of Liberty time listed on it. Right-hand side, of course, has the attraction time. Just another little note on them.
Yes. And again, it's worth making the effort.
Oh, yeah.
So number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3.
My top 3 actually changed multiple times, the order that I put them in, because any one of them could have been my number 1.
Okay, I'm going to take a bet right now that our top 3 are the exact same. Let's see.
I mean, they very well could.
Let's see.
My number 3 is the Festival of the Lion King.
Oh, wow.
From the Animal Kingdom, the Africa section at Animal Kingdom.
What does a giraffe sound like?
If you haven't seen the show, it is an indoor location now, which is fantastic. It used to be an outdoor, which is the only reason I specified
it was covered, but yeah, it was open to the elements.
But it's entirely indoors now. It is an entire ensemble show, including audience participation, which I'm not usually a fan of, but I love it for this show.
And including one of our favorite entertainment cast members, Seven.
Yay, Seven, you're amazing. They have 4 different people who lead the show. They take on the principal roles, and then there's an entire ensemble and puppets and acrobats and
tumble monkeys.
They're and
awesome.
The flying birds and the
it's as close to a Cirque show that you're going to find inside a Disney park.
And it's only a 30-minute show, so it's not a big time suck. You're not leaving the park to see fantastic entertainment. It's right there in the park. It's Broadway quality, literally Broadway quality. The talent of these actors is just incredible.
A little fun fact is that the original floats that were used in the original version over at Camp Minnie Mickey when the park was still young actually came from a parade at Disneyland.
And one of the best parades they've ever done.
It was amazing.
And I'm so glad that they turned it into a full stage show. And it's theater in the round, so the audience is surrounding the stage area, so you feel like you're fully immersed. But it is high energy, and it is fun and immersive and joyful, and you just can't help but grin ear to ear during
when
the
you
show.
Find yourself singing along.
Oh,
Come
you
on,
have
to.
It's some of the best music
King.
ever. So yeah, that is my number 3 slot.
They actually did repeat the attraction at Adventureland in Hong Kong Disneyland. So those are the only 2 places that you can see the show, are at Disney's Animal Kingdom and Hong Kong Disneyland in Adventureland.
So what is your number 3?
My number 3, and this is probably not going to be a big surprise, Yeehaw Bob! Bob Jackson at River Roost at Port Orleans Riverside.
Nice.
Yeehaw Bob's been rocking the piano. Literally, his piano is on rockers since 1997 at the River Roost. It's a small venue. It holds just about 150 people. So you can catch him over several different sets that he plays. But he plays Disney standards. He plays old fun music. He's one of the funniest people you're going to see at Disney. And he's actually been deemed a Disney legend. He actually has his own designation as a Disney legend, which is amazing.
He's earned it. He is amazing.
Has earned it.
He has a rabid fan following.
Yes, he does.
So it can be hard to get in.
You got to get there early. You will find him on YouTube actually as well. During the closure, he actually did virtual concerts and had Venmo open because, unfortunately, he was one of the entertainment cast members that got laid off along with everybody else.
Yeah, everyone.
We are so excited that he got invited back by Disney Entertainment after the closure. And
we had actually heard that he was back, but we hadn't seen when he was playing. And we happened to be staying at Riverside, went through the lobby just to check in to get to our hotel room, and heard Yeehaw Bob. And we just about broke down into tears. We were so happy.
I did, actually. I will admit, I teared up a bit when I saw he was there because he is such a Disney legend.
Yes. Yeah, anytime you are near Port Orleans, Riverside, stop in, get a drink in the bar, and treat yourself to an evening with Yeehaw Bob.
All right, on to number 2.
Number 2. Now, I don't know if you know what my number 1 is, but you probably are going to be surprised that this is my number 2 and not my number 1.
Uh-oh. Don't say it.
I'm going to say it. This was hard. Okay. My number 2 is Off Kilter.
Blasphemy!
I know. You guys, you don't even understand. Like, we love Off Kilter so much. We're those people who every time... Okay. So off kilter.
If you don't know.
I'm going to interrupt myself because I just realized that you may not know who they are. So off kilter is a Celtic rock group. They're who we referred to in the opening segment of this one that played in Canada. They play classic Celtic songs. They play Celtic rock songs. They play everything from Amazing Grace to Life is a Highway.
Yeah.
They play Fields of Athenry and Copperhead Road. Like, they just mix it up. What's the Australian one that he always closes with?
Long Way to the Top.
Long Way to the Top.
Yeah, AC/DC, I believe.
So good. Like, it's just, they mix up everything. And you've got Jamie on the bagpipes, and you've got Randy on the guitar, and you've got Mark doing vocals, and you've got Scotty playing the drums, and you've just got the whole mix. And they are just so fantastic and so fun.
Kind of give you a little rundown on Off Kilter because might as well say it's going to be my number one, as you can tell. Off Kilter has been around since 1997. They played until 2014 at the Canada Pavilion at Epcot until they were unfortunately and I'm not even going to say nice things here because I'm just not going to say anything because I'm still mad that they were let go.
We're literally those people who every time we walk past and there's someone else doing something on the stage, we're like, you're not Off Kilter.
That's not Off Kilter. Yeah, but Jamie Holton is a firefighter, actually, who plays the bagpipes. And he is actually award-winning bagpipe player.
He's
and
incredible.
He played the penny whistle and did vocals. Mark Weldon from Cork, Ireland, was on bass. Randy Holbrook from Richmond, Kentucky, all the way from Kentucky, on guitar. Matter of fact, he's one of my favorite guitarists of all time.
Oh, yeah, he's incredible.
He's amazing. He actually played with a group at Pleasure Island called Frankie and the West End Boys, which is actually the first time I remember seeing Randy play guitar. And Randy was amazing with Frankie and the West End Boys. And then when Off Kilter appeared at Epcot a year later or 2 years later, I was like, hey, I know that guy. Over the years, too, they also had Scott Zamowski playing the drums and doing some vocals on the backup side. From the opening and up through about their third CD that they put out, they had Tony Escapa on keyboards. They just lovingly called him Miracle Fingers. Once he left, they replaced him with fiddle, actually. And they've had a couple different fiddle players over the years. The gentleman that was last with him was, I believe, Colin. And then they had Jason play with him for a while. And they even had Jordan Woods Robinson playing fiddle with them when they were on tour after Disney. He's better known as Eric from The Walking Dead.
And he's a fantastic fiddle player.
Fantastic. He was also in Blue Man, surprisingly.
Yeah.
But it was fun to see Jordan playing with him when we saw him in Tulsa a few years ago. Actually got to say hi to them all.
Editor's note from the future. Let's not forget Billy Varnes, who also played bass and guitar and did vocals when they were at Disney, when Mark or somebody was out. He also appeared on the last album one more time.
Off Kilter is one of my favorite bands of all time. Sadly, they have disbanded, and they are no longer recording or touring anymore, but we wish them all well. And, well, we already know my number one, so...
Yeah, we still hope that they'll come back one day just for a little... reunion tour, maybe? I don't know.
Disney, are you listening?
Right.
Bring them back for one of the concerts.
I mean, they're doing the Epcot 40th right now. It would be a perfect time to bring back some of our favorites. You know, that's all I'm saying.
And Moroccan. They'd be another one
would
to
be
bring
great
back.
to bring back.
And put them on the stage during one of the festivals.
It'd be that's a dream.
Okay, so my number two, and I have a feeling this is going to be your number one,
Probably.
so we're probably interchangeable here. That's the Dapper Dans.
Yep.
The Dans have been playing Disneyland since 1959, so a few years after opening, and they were an opening act for Magic Kingdom in 1971.
As well they should be.
Yeah, they also appear as the Cadaver Dans during Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party.
And then they're not usually on Main Street, they're in Frontierland.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
So,
but they sing standards, they sing Disney standards, they sing American standards. They infuse everything with heart and with humor. They're just really good.
Yeah, there are also versions of the Dapper Dans, of course, at Disneyland, and also at Disneyland Paris and at Hong Kong Disneyland.
You'll recognize them by their striped waistcoats. They all have their own signature color that they're sporting as they walk through the park. Sometimes you'll see them on the Disneyland vehicles if you're at the Disneyland side. They have their own following People love the Dans, including me. They are my number one. I will go ahead and spill that since we're talking about them.
Number one.
Dapper Dans!
Hey!
I had to struggle with my number one and my number two, which it sounds like you probably didn't used to travel all the way across the country to see Off-Kilter.
I would actually, and this is true, folks, when I worked for Disneyland, I would take a whole weekend. I would get off work, go fly Spirit Airlines when they had $9 fares from LA to Fort Lauderdale overnight, drive up the turnpike, spend all of the next day watching all of the sets for Off-Kilter. The next day I would go to Busch Gardens or SeaWorld or maybe spend another half day at the parks, drive back down the turnpike and get my flight back to LA, spend the night and go back to work the next day. So I did that up to 10 times in 1 year. Yeah, I'm an Off-Kilter fanatic.
And I don't think I have ever done that for the Dans, but they still made my number one spot.
I would do it for the Dans. They're that good too, though.
They really are. And they're just one of those acts that I cannot help but grin when I see them. My heart swells and I just feel like I'm home, like when I see them.
We took our two nieces, Riley and Anna, for their first time to Disney World many years ago. And after talking to them when we got back, we asked Anna what her favorite thing was. And we thought maybe it'd be one of the attractions.
We should mention that they were teenagers.
Teenagers at the
time. When we took them, so.
And her favorite thing was the Dappers.
Yep. I mean, that says a lot. And I just recently made my favorite purchase where I was able to get my hands on the Dapper Dans Lounge Flyback Pack. So, yeah. They just hit me in my emotional feels every single time I see them.
So let us know what your favorite top 5 entertainment is at Disneyland, Disney World. And
hey, speaking of which...
Hey, that's right. There are other things other than these 5.
There are. We're going to talk about a couple of favorites that didn't make our list, but I'm curious. This is the curveball again that we always tend to lob at one another. But do you have a favorite at Disneyland that's not part of Disney World?
Oh, that's a good question. And my answer would be one of two things. And these go back a few years.
Okay.
That would either be the Zyda-Cats that used to play on the rafts before Fantasmic would start, or Billy Hill and the Hillbillies, which used to play in Frontierland, which is now Crazy Kirk and the Hillbillies at Knott's Berry Farm. They both go back to when I worked at Disneyland and were two of my favorite groups to listen to. And it's one of those things that just hits me in the feels. What about you?
Mine, I would actually go across the way there to DCA, and I would pick the Five and Dimes.
Oh, good
You
call.
know I
Good
love
call.
them. They are a vocal group that sings at Disney's California Adventure, usually right there in that main hub, and there's a little stage that's right there. They sing, again, some standards, some Disney, all with a very fun, jazzy,
Bluesy
old
vibe
school
almost, yeah.
Hollywood kind of feel. Oh my gosh, they are so much fun. I wish I could get my hands on a CD because I'm that old. But
What's a CD?
I know, right? It's a way we used to play music before playlists.
Children, ask your parents.
But they are fantastic. If you're ever on the West Coast, you've got to stop and see the Five and Dimes.
I think some of the things at Disney World that did not make the list need to be at least
so
mentioned.
much.
The Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular and the Beauty and the Beast show, both at Disney Hollywood Studios, or back when it was Disney MGM Studios, have both been there since the park opened.
Yeah.
And are both still very, very popular. Actually, Indiana Jones started as my number 5 for a while.
That's a good one. That's a 30-minute stunt show. It takes place at Echo Lake. It has its own theater. Lots of really cool stunts. And
It's covered and has tons of room.
Yes.
So it's one that even if you walk up to a few minutes before the show starts, you can get into, even if it's only standing room only.
Yes. Now, they do cut it short if there's inclement weather because it can get dangerous for the stunt performers. But otherwise, I mean, it still stands up to this day. And with the new movie coming out, I mean, it's relevant again. So
Yeah, very true, very true.
Indy's always relevant. And Beauty and the Beast live on stage, like you said. That's a 25-minute show over on Sunset Boulevard. Again, it has its own theater. Covered, sort of, but not indoors. But it gets you out of the sun for a little bit because of those banners that hang over you. And makes me cry every single time.
Yeah.
I always know how it's going to end. I still cry.
I just want to bring up 3 things that used to be at Disney MGM Studios as well that had no bearing on anything Disney, and they were so craptacular, I have to mention them. That was the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which used to appear in a parade and meet and greet. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, for some reason, appeared in the backlot at Disney's MGM Studios. And for a short time, and you're not going to believe this, look it up, it's true, Ace Ventura had his own show.
Pet Detective.
Pet Detective. What? Excuse me? At Disney?
A little weird.
Weird. And it's so bizarre that I just have to mention them. I did not like any of those shows, to be honest.
I don't recall ever seeing them.
I did see them, and they were just... why? It was a show in search of a park.
A couple other things that I want to mention that are just so good, so worth taking time to see. Mariachi Cobre
Oh, they're
in
fantastic.
the Mexico Pavilion at Epcot. They've been there since day one. If you like mariachi music at all, they are fantastically talented and definitely worth stopping and having a good time with them. Grab a margarita, enjoy it. The Nemo show at Animal Kingdom.
Oh, that's a fun one. It's actually just been redone.
Yes.
So it's 10 minutes shorter, mercifully, because the benches in there suck. Disney, are you listening?
Right. It's 25 minutes now.
Yeah.
It used to be 35,
I
almost
believe so,
40.
Yes, almost 40.
Felt like over an hour. Not because of the show quality. The show is
Show's
really
fantastic.
fun. Finding Nemo as a movie is not a musical, but the show is a musical, and
It uses the song from the attraction, actually, too.
yes,
Which is called
the
In Big Blue World. I'm sorry, I don't like to sing on key, but the Big Blue World is such a great part of that show. And it's unique to the attraction and to the show.
And the other music from the show is all written by the duo who also wrote Frozen and Frozen 2. They are so talented, and the cast is literally Broadway quality. They're actually people who have been on Broadway, just like the Lion King show, where they bring in people who have immense talent. So it is definitely worth seeing. It's, again, an indoor theater, which is great. Like Rod said, the benches are not great, but it is indoor, air-conditioned, and the show is super fun.
At Disney's Animal Kingdom, though, too, because it's such a hot park, having both The Lion King and Nemo as shows that are available on Lightning Lane is actually really, really welcomed at that park.
Absolutely. And both very much worth catching. Couple of other things back at Epcot in the Japan Pavilion. I'm going to say this wrong. It's the Matsuriza. It's the women who play the taiko drums.
Absolutely
I can't even explain this.
Stunning show.
It is stunning. It is moving in a way that I can't even explain. It's really, really, it's worth standing if you can find a spot in the shade, have a sit, go in and get some kakagori or get some sake, go get a violet sake from up the hill, sit down and just watch these women wail on these drums. It is absolutely phenomenal. Also at Epcot, did you want to talk about By Imagination?
Well, this almost was in my top one spot, and it just fell down and down and down. Way back when used to be a meet and greet with Dreamfinder holding Figment. He wasn't a puppet. He was real. It was the real Figment.
Absolutely.
But he was outside of the attraction, so he couldn't talk. But the meet and greet for Figment and Dreamfinder is something, again, if you could bring it back, I would be in tears.
They have said that Figment is coming back, but they haven't said Dreamfinder, so...
Yeah, Dreamfinder was kind of excommunicated for some bizarre reason. Have not quite figured out why. And we'll talk about that during the Disney Are You Listening Rides edition.
Yes, we will.
Because I guarantee you Imagination's going to make that list.
We have a lot to say about that one.
Oh, yeah, we do. But Dreamfinder and Figment were the only two characters, Disney IP, so should you call it that. But when we went in 1983, first year still, they were there before Mickey was. And it's just one of those things that, as a kid, it just hits you in the heart.
And the original Figment was incredibly endearing.
He was innocent.
He was sweet. He was funny. He wasn't
playful like he is now, but
very
not mischievous.
playful.
He was
a little mischievous, but not in an annoying way.
Right.
He
didn't fart at you.
Well, skunk. He didn't skunk.
Yeah, whatever.
He was very
it's a rug
sweet.
Made from the butt of a skunk. A skunk butt rug.
I could go on and on. Citizens of Hollywood and Pooh chasing the butterflies.
Oh my gosh, Pooh chasing
and
the butterflies.
Lights,
One of those
Motors,
things
Action. Like
that, yeah. Oh my gosh, that happened from the closure, and it's still there. Between the Land Pavilion and Imagination, Pooh just comes out with a butterfly net and chases imaginary butterflies.
it's adorable.
You cannot not stop watching it.
It's so cute.
Cute.
And over at Magic Kingdom, you'll have similar interactions where Peter Pan will just wander around Fantasyland and play tag with his own shadow.
I love that.
And you'll see the stepsisters come out and they're gossiping about royal gossip and talking to people and talking about people. And they're fantastic. And Captain Jack Sparrow over in Adventureland, if you ever get to have a meet and greet with him, he's fantastic. They have incredible friends of Jack.
You started to mention one there too, Lights, Motors, Action.
Yes.
That was a
Motors,
really
Action.
fun one. I do miss that show.
It used to be at the studios.
And then we saw it also at the Studios Park in Paris.
Yeah.
And it was just a really fun stunt show with lots of loud cars and motorcycles and explosions and a jet ski or two, I think.
Yeah,
if I recall,
I think
randomly
so.
placed.
And then back over at Epcot, you have the Jameters who come out and play trash cans. You have the Santas all around the world who tell
my gosh.
stories. And
During Festival of the Holidays, the one in
Yes.
Norway is hysterical.
oh my gosh, he's so fantastic.
Oh my heavens. Yeah, if you get a chance to go during Festival of the Holidays, make sure you catch the Santas. They space them out about 5 or 10 minutes apart, so if you walk around the World Showcase just looking for those shows, usually you can kind of hit them in a good succession.
And, all of this to say that, like we said at the beginning, it's more than just rides. If you're going and just focusing on rides, you're missing so much. So look beyond the rides and see what else is out there and available. We also wanted to talk a little bit about our top 3
Meet and greets. Yeah,
because we didn't
really
include any of those.
include those. But to me, we did compare notes on this, and so we actually had the same number 3 and number 2. So number 3 for us is got to be Tiana.
Princess Tiana.
I mean, as an adult, as a Disney adult even, I'm not going to stand in line to see Cinderella, Snow White. I'm sorry, I'm not. Princess Tiana is sassy. She's brilliant. I absolutely just love her. And every time we've seen her anywhere in the parks, she's just amazing. She's such a great character, but she's such a great cast member. And I know it's not the same one every time, but Friends
Yes,
of Tiana
it is.
are fantastic.
There's only one Tiana, and we met her.
Exactly.
We, again, when we took our nieces, it surprised us so much the things that they wanted to do. And one of the things that was they wanted to meet the princesses. And being teenage girls, we didn't think that was going to be on their list, and it was. And it was so sweet. And Tiana was definitely our favorite that we got to meet that day. Like Rod said, she's sassy and she's funny. And she was just, oh my gosh, she was a fantastic interaction,
And
even for adults.
Can't wait to ride her ride and eat her food.
Yes.
Number 2 is Baymax. Baymax is one of my favorite Marvel. Actually, Baymax and Rocket are my 2 favorite Marvel characters. And yes, Baymax is a Marvel character.
Yes, he is.
Even though he was in a Disney animated, he's a Marvel character.
And he's from Big Hero 6, if you're not familiar.
Right. He's the big robot kind of
balloon
guy who Hero's brother had created in Big Hero 6. Tadashi, that was his name. And there was a meet and greet at Epcot, I think.
It was
wasn't
at
Was it
Epcot, yeah.
And you actually got to get up and hug Baymax.
He
And
has the best hugs.
he has the best hugs.
Well, second best hugs. We'll get there.
True. Number 1 is the best hug.
Yes. But he was a fantastic meet and greet. Not a lot of vocal interaction. There's a lot of characters that don't talk. And
Baymax is
he's one of them. But, oh my gosh, he did the whole fist bump. Like, he did the whole thing with you. It was just very endearing. And those great big squishy hugs were fantastic.
Oh yeah. So we talked about what tied for our number 1. That was Figment and Dreamfinder. This was a hard one to really to do. So we kind of put Figment and Dreamfinder as 1B. 1A is Chewie.
Chewbacca.
Oh my heavens! I don't fanboy over Star Wars or over much of anything anymore, especially after working for the company for so long. However, the very first time that we went into Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, actually, no, I take that back. We
It was
did
at
this
the
at
Launch
Disney's
Bay.
Hollywood Studios at Launch Bay. That's right. and got to hug Chewie. Or just got to meet Chewie, but then Chewie gave me a hug. I melted.
It's
the real Chewie.
It absolutely is.
And he talks.
He talked to us. He gave us hugs.
Oh my gosh.
He has the best hugs.
I turned into an 8-year-old kid. I was just like, this is the real Chewie.
And I cried. I absolutely cried.
Absolutely
I met
one of the
Chewbacca.
best. Yeah, one of the just most amazing meet and greets of all time.
We also got to meet Kylo Ren that time, and he's intimidating.
He's a little scary.
Yeah. I wanted to kind of walk in and go, "Hey Ben, how's it going?" And I didn't, because he's scary.
How's your dad? How's that going for
Got
you?
those daddy issues worked out.
Yeah, he does walk around and interact with people at Galaxy's Edge. Actually, still.
Yes, as does Mando with Grogu, and
Chewie does occasionally too. Actually,
Fennec
with Rey.
Shand
Yeah,
is at Disneyland. I don't think she's made it to Disney World yet.
They're bringing in more characters, and they've actually announced that they're
amazing.
bringing in
I'd
a
love to
lot
meet her.
more characters now. Yeah,
But Phasma walks around, and stormtroopers walk around. They'll arrest you and take you to Kylo.
I love that.
It's super fun. But yeah, Chewie was our number one spot for the meet and greet. He's still at the launch bay. You're able to go in and do a scheduled meet and greet with him, and it's worth it.
Since the original movie came out in 1977, episode 4, because that's how you count apparently in the future.
When it first came
Or
out
in a
in
galaxy far, far
1977,
away,
it was
I'm sorry.
not labeled as episode 4. They didn't do that until the re-release, and then they labeled it as episode 4. Don't get me started on the nerd facts.
Okay. Anyway, when it came out, Chewie was my favorite. And so ever since then, I've held a kind of a soft spot in my heart, in my Star Wars part of my heart and brain for Chewie. So getting to meet him was just magical.
Yes. And seeing him work on the Falcon with Rey is super fun,
I
too,
love
over at
that.
Galaxy's
My
Edge.
Heavens, I love that.
That's so fun. So, yeah, there's live entertainment literally everywhere you look. All of the parks, even a lot of the hotels. Disney Springs has Raglan Road and Cirque. And, I mean, there's just stuff going on everywhere. Take a look. See
Yeah.
what you're missing.
Get off the rides and stop and smell the roses.
Yes.
Those roses being live entertainment. But don't smell the characters because that's just creepy.
Yeah, that's a little
So
weird.
maybe don't stop and smell the roses then. But anyway, you see what we're saying. Please, when you get a chance, especially if you're going multiple times, go see the shows. Stop and see the characters. Interact with the characters in the places you can, like Galaxy's Edge.
And all the streetmosphere.
Especially as a Disney adult, it puts the magic back in your whole trip.
It really does. It's so much fun. Take advantage of it because it's all around you.
Before we go, I'd like to thank our friend and old Disney cast member buddy of mine, Andy Apodaca from the Palm Springs Linguist, and our friends Ken and Lynn from the Sweep Spot. All of them are available on YouTube with their own podcasts, also covering Disney like we do. We'd also like to give a big thanks to our social media coordinator, Riley Piper, audio engineers Joey Humphrey and Paul Trett, and logo artist Evan Piper for their invaluable help and support. And as always, thank you, Phoenicians.
Thank you, Phoenicians. And don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review. It really does help people find us.
This has been episode 14 of the Epcotian Adventure. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Rod,
And I'm Sue.
and we'll see you in line.
Bye.
We're going to pause for this coughing fit. Is that
Hey.
better?
It was a cough button. It made me cough.
Hey, I didn't know that's what
How
that
does it
did.
make you cough?